I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading from the book of Acts, chapter 14. Let's focus on verses 19 through 23. And then some Jews came from Antioch and Iconium, and when they had won over the crowds and stoned Paul, they dragged him out of the city, thinking he was dead. And after the disciples surrounded him, he got up and went into the town. The next day he left with Barnabas for Derbe. And after they had evangelized that town and made many disciples, they returned to Lystra, to Iconium, and to Antioch, strengthening the hearts of the disciples by encouraging them to continue in the faith, and by telling them it is necessary to pass through many troubles on our way to the kingdom of God. And when they had appointed elders in every church, and prayed and fasting, they committed them to the Lord in whom they had believed. Now, theologians are unsure as to whether Paul actually was stoned to death and then resurrected by the Lord, or if he was only thought to be dead. Well, in either case, it was a miracle that Paul got up, not to mention the fact that he walked back into the town where he had been stoned. Well, it was a testimony of great faith that Paul went back to the town that he'd been stoned in just moments before. Why would he do such a thing instead of shaking the dust off of his feet and moving on? Well, here's why. Because Paul knew his calling. And I've made it clear on several occasions that I believe the Bible teaches calling. Not just for super apostles. God calls each and every one of us. And I believe that God calls us specifically to specific places in order to minister in specific ways, delivering specific messages for specific seasons of time. And if there is no calling, then there's no incentive to endure hardship. And in light of his calling, Paul was impelled, that is, not impaled, as in to have a spear thrown at you, but he was drawn from the inside by God's Spirit to go back to Lystra. What was Paul communicating with his re-arrival? Well, he was testifying that God is greater than the evil schemes of men. They thought they killed me. They haven't. They thought they could scare me away so I'll never come back here again. It won't work. Also, Paul would not be intimidated. The next day, Paul left town, but he left on his own terms. I'm sure he had a handful of Advil with him as well. This was no doubt a warning to those who sought to persecute the young church. And it would have been obviously a morale boost for the fledgling congregation there. You know, Paul was a master leader. And in returning, Paul, number one, strengthened the new disciples spiritually. Number two, he urged them to use their strength to hold firmly to the faith. He gave fair warning as to what to expect. Hey, listen, troubles are not, they're not part of the calling. Trouble is the calling, as well as victory for the kingdom of God. And number four, he appointed leaders who were elders to run the new congregations. So if Paul is an excellent example of a disciple, and I believe that he is, well then by following his example, we can expect many troubles. But listen, those troubles in no way compare to the joy which comes from following the Lord, from watching him accomplish his purposes through our submission to his leading, as we focus on our great reward of entering his kingdom, having run the race well. Think about these things. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. You know, Groundworks Ministries operates entirely through financial donations from faithful people just like you. And yes, we do need your monthly support. Donating is secure and it's easy at our website, groundworksministries.com. You know, another way to help is just tell people about Groundworks Ministries. Share these podcasts with friends and family and on your social media. And of course, you can always direct folks to our website, groundworksministries.com.